I don't know any personally, but I would assume they've given up on dating and won't put in the effort to get to know an incel or femcel, depending on their preference. I also don't think incels or femcels would make great partners in general, which could explain why they won't date each other. Yeah, I think all these comments about attractiveness are kind of missing the point. At the core of incel, femcel belief is a deep self-loathing. They don't believe that they are capable of being loved, or even worthy of love. It's a vicious cycle of resenting the world for not finding them desirable, and that resentment making them more undesirable. They both think they inherently deserve the ideal guy, gals. Incels, femcels are literally the polar opposite. They just simply don't meet each other's standards. Everybody here is attacking the character of femcels, incels when the explanation is actually really simple. Nobody wants to date an undesirable partner, even if they themselves are undesirable. Yep, that's all there is to it. For the same reason they aren't dating anyone already. They're too busy whining online. Edit. This comment got twice as big as the post, lol. They don't want yugus. They both think they deserve tens, because they're so nice. I work in domestic violence recovery. This does happen, and I assure you, she will be in my office in a few months. Incels hate women. Femcels hate themselves. That's what men don't understand and way this post doesn't acknowledge. Incels as a movement aren't just men that can't be laid. It's a hate group against women. They are considered domestic terrorists in some countries and have committed mass murders. Incel culture and the manosphere as a whole is dangerous, racist, violent and of course misogynist. Femcels don't usually hate men as a movement. They mostly hate themselves. And of course they aren't as big in number as incels. FDD is a very toxic sub, with a very wrong understanding about what feminism is. I understand that we women need a place to vent, talk about our frustrations and everyday misogyny, but there are healthier forums. But even if FDD is just a toxic sub with some appalling ideas, they aren't a big hate movement as organized as incels, and they aren't violent in real life. It's like how Christian dominionists and Wahhabi Muslims share extremely similar ideologies, but would likely murder each other before collaborating. This right here. A core tenet of inceldom is misogyny and vice versa. If an incel and a femcel met each other, one of the two would end up murdered. They don't think each other is good enough for them. It's not that incels can't date. They think they deserve a certain type of woman. What exactly is the difference between an incel versus a guy who think he's not worthy enough to be dated? Contrary to popular belief, unattractive people are not attracted to other unattractive people. I know you're talking about looks, but what you say is also deeply true about personality too. Through some incredible mistake, they see the world in a way that makes them personally insufferable to be around. It's like an active denial system for human interaction. Setting up a couple with that mirrored personality would see both repulsed regardless of looks. Why wouldn't they be? They're both terrible. Without the echo chamber to keep slapping tape and flexiel over their protected worldview, it crumbles pretty goddamn fast. So yeah, I don't think you're wrong. I think you're *** right plus. Thinking face. When incels was still a thing, I commented once * and got 15 death and rape threats. Pretty sure anyone who meets people with that ideology in real life can sense the ick from a mile away. My husband has a friend who's borderline incel. I'd say he's full incel, but I don't know him well enough to fully judge. Him and another guy were joking about another friend's fiancée, saying how fat and disgusting she was, and how they would rather be single than date someone like her. She's actually a very sweet soul. My husband turned around and said, "What utter BS, one of you has never had a GF and won't talk to women. The other has had one, who was plus size, who broke up with you 3 years ago and you still pine over." Apparently it was very awkward after lol. Is there an actual incel here to answer the question? If there was, you wouldn't be able to see their posts because they've been downvoted to oblivion. Well, if a incel and a femcel got together, they would no longer be either. Therefore your idea is impossible. Yeah. It's sort of a tautological question. It's like asking, of all the people with brown hair, why don't they have blonde hair? How are we defining incels? People seem to have different definitions of it. Well, the name comes from involuntarily celibate. So it's basically people that for one reason or another don't get sex. But further than that, the term is now kind of associated to people with a very negative, toxic view of the opposite sex. More often than not, you see them projecting their problems onto someone else instead of taking any responsibility. Even the name incel implies that it's not their fault they don't have sex but everyone else's fault. Gonna repost my comment from last time this thread came up, because it's just as relevant now. You're getting a lot of BS answers from Redditors who think they know incels and that they just have high standards. Firstly, incels don't believe that femcels exist. They think that any woman who's not literally disfigured can easily find a male partner. Secondly, incels believe that women are hypergamous, and that even if they did get into a relationship with one, she would not feel true love for him, and would inevitably leave if given the opportunity to get with a more attractive man. This should be higher TBH. What the living shit is a femcel? There are certainly not enough of them to match in a one-to-one fashion with incels. Maybe like 1,000 to 1. Dude, no. Shut up, quick. We don't want any of those sad sacks reproducing. Oh man, those poor children. And future assholes. Because incels don't think that femcels exist, are valid and vice versa. No one likes ugly people, even ugly people don't like ugly people. Even ugly people don't like themselves. I asked my incel friend if he'd ever consider lowering his standards to finally get a girl, and his response was, ew. No, either he lowers his expectations or raises his quality of character. What are his standards?